Square. Take a payment whilst hearing the hottest gossip.
Nice.
Process the online order for every single dessert on the menu. See how those new saltfish fritters are going down in the Sunderland branch. Help push them 3 tables together. Oh, hang on. You're on your own with that one. Square. Everything your business needs. Almost.
Hey, you know that warm feeling you get when you help someone in need?
SOS Emotional Health Charity needs volunteers like you to support people who are struggling with their feelings.
If you're compassionate and over 18 and have got a little free time, you can join SOS.
As a phone or email support volunteer, giving kindness and time.
Training, ongoing development and support will be provided.
Apply to join the SOS family today and turn your spare minutes into another person's lifeline.
Can I speak to Laura, please?
Sure. Let me just check that she's free. Not there, I'm afraid. We'll try Paul.
Can I speak to Laura, please?
Let's see if she's available. I can see she's busy at the moment. But Paul's free. Do you want to speak to him?
Yes, please.
Hi Business Phone.
Designed, developed and supported in the UK. Hi for business. Visit hihi.co.uk.
Boots Advantage card now comes with Price Advantage. It's bursting with exclusive savings on hundreds of products online and in store. Shop now with your Boots Advantage card or sign up in the app and start saving. Boots, with you for life.
You all right, hun?
You got the blankets?
Yeah.
And the car seat?
In the back. Yeah, it's got essential oils.
Oh, you didn't think petrol was an essential oil?
It's gonna be fine. Oh, just a quick top up and we'll be there.
Some things are better faster. That's why TalkTalk's full fibre now goes right up to 900 megabits per second. New speed, same great value. It just makes sense. TalkTalk.
On TV, on radio, and on your smartphone. This is TalkTV. Live from the News Building in London, this is the News Desk with Tom Newton-Dunn.
Good evening. An hour of news and analysis coming up, reported straight. And on the News Desk tonight, Partygate probed. Police end their Partygate inquiry with no more fines for Boris Johnson. But his enemies say it's not over yet. Lucky dip. A couple from Gloucestershire told today how they became Britain's biggest ever lottery winners, scooping an incredible £184 million. Packing their wags. Colleen and Wayne Rooney missed the last day of the Wagatha Christie libel trial to fly out on holiday. But lawyers brand Rebecca Vardy an unreliable witness. Facebook whistleblower Frances Horgan is our headline interview tonight as MPs grill the Culture Secretary over whether her online safety laws go far enough. And
this is your captain speaking.
that is indeed your captain speaking, because Maverick is back. Tom Cruise is on the red carpet tonight for the UK premiere of the new Top Gun film. Reporting on those stories tonight and sharing their expert analysis, specialists from our newsrooms around the country. This is the News Desk. Thank you for joining us. So to our top story tonight. After 4 long and extremely tortured months, if you live in Downing Street, the Metropolitan Police have announced their Partygate investigation into the breach of COVID rules is now over. The Met's final act was to announce a further batch of fixed penalty notices, meaning a total of 83 politicians, advisors, civil servants, at least one of their spouses have been fined. 126 fines in total have been issued, with more than 24 people receiving multiple fines. But the big political development of the day is that the Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, did not receive any of the new fines, leaving him with just one penalty notice still for that birthday party of his. His allies claim he is now in the clear, but there is still one major hurdle he faces, the long-awaited Sue Gray report. We'll get both the police and political angles on this huge running story in a moment. But first, let's break down what the Partygate saga looks like in numbers. So those 126 notices that saw 83 people fined in total, 35 of them were men, 48 of them women. 28 of those received multiple fines and some as many as 5 of them. They broke 6 separate different coronavirus regulations in total. 12 detectives worked on the investigation full-time at a cost of some £460,000, sifting through 510 different photos, 345 documents and hours of CCTV footage. And when did it all happen? Well, the offences investigated spanned an 11-month period across all 3 lockdowns. Among the illicit gatherings was the PM's impromptu birthday celebration that saw him, his wife Carrie and the Chancellor Rishi Sunak all fined. Also on the list is the Bring Your Own Booze party in Number 10's back garden and various leaving dues, including one held the night before Prince Philip's funeral. I'm joined now by the crime and security editor for The Times, Fiona Hamilton. Fiona, good evening. Now that it's all over, what more are the police telling us and what more have they told us about what they've discovered?
Well, we've had an update today from the Met Police in terms of a little bit of a fines breakdown. One of the key takeaways, I suppose, is the gender disproportionality. We know that there are more senior male civil servants across Downing Street and Whitehall, but actually, in the event, women were lumbered with more fines. They've gone through a little bit of more detail as well in terms of exactly what they did to get through Operation Hillman, the investigation into Partygate. So not only did they go through about 200 or so questionnaires to people who they suspected of being involved in lockdown breaking events, they also took witness statements, went through CCTV, diary notes and other pieces of evidence that led them to come to these conclusions. But there is still quite a lot of detail that hasn't really come out, specifically on the breakdowns of exactly which events they fined people for. They're refusing to go into any detail of exactly who was fined at which event, citing concerns about confidentiality. So there's still a lot to learn about this inquiry.
There really is, isn't there? So far, we know 3 of the 83 different people who've been fined. The Prime Minister, Carrie Johnson and Rishi Sunak, and we believe most of those people are still in their jobs as well, don't we? But how do you think the police have come out of all of this, Fiona? Because they've certainly had their critics along the way.
Well, with any political inquiry that lands at the door of the Metropolitan Police, it's always very difficult for them. And I always think these situations are slightly lose-lose. So in the case of Partygate, some would say they should have fined more people, and some would say they should never investigated in the first place. But I think there has been a communications issue from the beginning. They failed to explain why they didn't investigate properly in the first place. And now today, now that we finally got to the culmination of this huge investigation with public interest, they're refusing to give us extra details about the nature of fines and even their rationale for giving out fines. So we don't understand with each event, A, whether people have definitively been fined for it. We've only been given a very broad brush. Well, there were 8 dates over an 11-month period for which there have been fines. But of course, there were a dozen gatherings over those dates. So we don't know that. But we also just don't know how they've interpreted the regulations, the issues with the fact, did the Prime Minister escape some fines because even though there was an illegal gathering, he lived there? And they're just not going into detail further about that. And I just think that will raise more questions and more issues for them and more concern from the public.
OK, Fiona, thank you very much for that. Well, joining me now for the political end of this story is our political editor, Kate McCann. Kate, hi. A real sense of relief in Downing Street tonight. I'm sure the Prime Minister didn't get more of those fines, but certainly Westminster views appear to be tonight. This really isn't the end of the story.
No, it isn't, although I do wonder tonight whether the inhabitants of Downing Street might have a cheeky drink to celebrate the fact that none of them got fined today in this latest tranche. Look, I think for Boris Johnson's political situation, if you like, those local election results could have been the moment that triggered the leadership challenge to him. The results are pretty poor, but it didn't happen. And today was another one of those big potential moments for the Prime Minister. If he had received another fine, if anyone in his very senior team had, I think we'd be in a very different situation to where we are now, which is essentially that those around him, his cabinet colleagues, are saying, OK, we're all done, let's move on, including the Policing Minister, Kit Mulhouse.
I'm glad it's over. I think the police will have done things with efficiency, and I'm glad they've expedited it. Obviously, the Prime Minister has apologised for the cake incident, and I hope now that it's all over, we can move on to the really important stuff.
But the big question, as you say, is it all over? And the reality is that no, it isn't. While those two big issues that I mentioned, the local elections and today, have passed without particular incident for Boris Johnson, largely actually because after the local elections, Sir Keir Starmer put himself in a difficult position over an event that he attended, saying that he would resign if he got a fine, sort of taking the political heat off Boris Johnson a little bit. There is a huge event coming up next week, which is the Sue Gray report, the publication of that investigation into exactly what happened. And the big question is, exactly how harsh is she going to be? How much detail will she go into which events everybody was at? Will there be any evidence cited? We know there are photographs. Will we get to hear details of those? Now, that could be really problematic for Boris Johnson. I think as we sit here tonight, even some of those who were moving against him just a couple of weeks ago have told me today, for example, you know, oh, he's a rogue, but I do still love him a little bit. I think there is a growing sense that now is not quite the right moment. Things could potentially change, but it all comes down to exactly how much detail is in that report, how much we get to hear, and then there's a further investigation after that and a big question about those photographs, as I mentioned.
Very interesting. Kate, you'll have more on that next week. You also have more on something else later in the programme, so see you in a moment. Well, it has made them richer than Adele and even richer than some, though not all, of the Rolling Stones. Today, Jess and Joe Thwaite were unveiled as the £184 million lottery jackpot winners. And they told us all just a little bit about how they now spend just a small amount of it. The hairdresser and sales manager from Gloucester are Britain's biggest ever lottery winners. And today they revealed the life-changing early morning moment 8 days ago when they realised they'd won.
This is a fun game to play. Like, it's obviously wrong.
Yeah.
There's something wrong with the app, but
Yeah.
hey, let's go with it and let's enjoy this moment of thinking we've won the lottery, because it's not real. And we said, we'll call them at 8 o'clock when it comes on and check if it is.
Finalised.
And then I was like, right, I'll go make coffee.
Well, Amelia Harper, TalkTV's correspondent, joins me now, who's been following this story. Amelia, which one of us hasn't been in that situation where you've thought you've opened the email, it was you, and turns out it wasn't? What else has Britain's newest multi-millionaires had to tell us today?
Well, Tom, they have said that this whole experience has been entirely surreal, and they say winning £184 million has given them time to dream. I mean, imagine waking up on a Tuesday morning last week and finding out that you were suddenly richer than Adele. It's beyond belief, really. But how did this come about? Well, Joe woke up at 5:15 a.m. last Tuesday to an email. He had got up to walk the dogs. He then opened this email, saw that he had won this money, but then waited, lay in bed, unsure what to do with himself. I'm sure you and me wouldn't exactly know what to do with ourselves either. And he turned to his wife, Jess. She woke up at 8 o'clock and said, I've got a little secret for you. I've got something to tell you. And of course, the typical husband-wife exchange, the morning exchange went on. And she said, when he told her, don't be stupid. There must be something wrong with the app. So she clearly didn't believe it. They wanted to crack on with their morning routine. They actually went to rang the lottery office, at 8 o'clock when it opened to double check that they had actually won this money. But they were saying that when they opened the email, they were actually counting the digits one by one to be sure of the exact amount they'd actually won.
I first thought it was in thousands, and I thought...
Were you excited that it was thousands?
Yeah, I was. I was over the moon. I thought
you thought you won 148,000?
Yeah, and I was really... I just thought life-changing, you know.
So what are they going to do next, Tom? Are they going to quit their jobs? Well, Joe has already handed in his notice as a communication sales manager. He was quick off the mark there after winning that money. And Jess has a role in a hairdressing salon she runs with her sister, and she is still considering what to do. But I think a really nice, poignant note to this story is that Jess's father was a lifelong national lottery ticket buyer, and he actually asked them and said, when you win the money eventually, what are you going to do with it? But they say over this last week, they have carried on with normal life.
We thought we'll wait for the next phone call, and I just...
We just
Jess
carried on with our life. I went off with
and I logged onto my laptop and started work.
Yeah. And I went to work.
So what are they going to do with this money? Well, first, they've just bought some bedroom furniture. Very sensible first move. But they've said that their kids have mentioned, they have 2 children, that they want to go to Hawaii. So they think that they may now be able to make that happen. But first, Tom, they're going to start with something a little bit closer to home.
I'll probably buy a new car, I'm sure, or something like that. But we haven't got a huge... We'd love to go on a family holiday.
Is it more the experience? More experiences.
Yeah, we'd love to... We had to go buy suitcases to come here because we don't go on holiday.
Well, I think we're all very jealous and wanting that holiday too, but they say it's going to be a full-time job now managing this money, Tom.
And buying a few more suitcases as well, because they don't go on holiday. Actually, my favourite bit of all of that was they wake up, they realise they won £104 million. What do they then do? They go to work.
They go to
work. How wonderfully British is that? Amelia, thanks so much for that. Coming up, I feel the need for speed. Even at the age of 59, after a 3-year delay, Tom Cruise is back, and Top Gun 2 has its royal premiere in London tonight. We'll bring you the latest from the red carpet next. You're watching the News Desk live on TalkTV.
At Morrison's, we've cut over 500 prices on the things you buy all the time. We've cut the price of freezer favourites, everyday essentials, your cuppa, and we've cut the price of midweek meals. That's over 500 new price cuts that could cut the price of every shop. Morrison's. Make good things happen.
Hey, yo, check this out. Bustin' on the scene, moving like a dream. It's nothing you've ever seen. We're breaking all the rules, anything we choose. Verify, living proof. I got something new. We're breaking all the rules, anything we choose. Verify, living proof. I got something new.
This is the way to sell your car. The car dealer's bid to give you up to £1,000 more way. This is the motorway.
Wouldn't it be nice to keep hold of things you'd normally lose? Yes, go Well, Sky Mobile rolls with spare data so you can keep hold of it for up to 3 years. Sky Mobile. Hello, possible.
3, 2, 1, and liftoff.
Technology enables us to do things that we just can't naturally do. That opens up so many possibilities. And when you can fold the impossible into the reality of normal life right now, I think that's what progress is.
When technology enables progress, ESET is here to protect it. ESET Digital Security. Progress protected.
From our beach to yours. Four citrus peels mingle with coastal grown rosemary, the dew of the sea, as fresh as a coastal breeze. The award-winning Pembrokeshire Gin Company. Craft distilled in Wales and inspired by the sea.
Excuse me, but your skin looks absolutely radiant. Oh, thanks. Glowing, supple, shimmering. Did you splurge on that new cream with black pepper elixir? Sourdough starter. It's this. That's number 7. Yes. Great talking to you. Amazing skin.
The UK's #1 skincare brand. 3 for £2, available at Boots.
Welcome back. After 9 drama-packed days, the £3 million Wagatha Christie libel trial has finally come to a close today. Colleen and Wayne Rooney were absent from the High Court after jetting off on holiday a day early. But Rebecca Vardy was there and had to hear Colleen's lawyers accuse her of lying under oath. Now, the whole case rests in the hands of the judge, who has said she will deliver her judgment later this year. Joining us live from the High Court is TalkTV's Oliver Whitfield-Miocic, who has watched every single twist and turn of this case. Oliver, we've heard from both WAGs, we've heard from both their husbands. It was the lawyers who had the final words.
Yes, that's right, Tom. And first of all, we heard from the lawyers behind Colleen Rooney, explaining why the celebrity couple were not in court. Both Colleen and Wayne had agreed with their lawyers that the trial would have ended by last Friday, and that meant that they could go on a holiday, so they've taken the 4 kids away. The lawyers then continued on to one of the key points of this trial, the deletion of WhatsApp messages by Rebecca Vardy, as well as disposing of a laptop. We heard from Colleen's side that that was a deliberate deletion and destruction of evidence. They then accused Rebecca Vardy of lying under oath, all to cover up incriminating evidence. Rebecca Vardy's side hit back, saying that was a mere conspiracy theory, and offered up the explanation that everybody has experiences where laptops cease to work. Moving forward, they moved on to Rebecca Vardy as a witness. Colleen Rooney's side had accused her of being totally unreliable, or because she changed her witness statement 3 times in the lead up to this trial. Again, Mr. Tomlinson, acting on behalf of Rebecca Vardy, said that was complete nonsense, pointed the finger instead at her former agent Caroline Watt, accused her of being somebody who was from the PR gossip world, somebody who may have been interested in selling stories to the national press. In summing up, we heard the following key points. From Colleen Rooney's side, that her accusations and her Instagram post was substantially true then as it is now. From Rebecca Vardy's side, that she'd been the victim of abuse from tens of thousands of people, and that had taken its toll both on her reputation and on her health. Rebecca Vardy is now seeking substantial damages, but we may have to wait up to 3 months to find out the verdict of this trial, as Mrs. Justice Stein has reserved her judgment.
Oliver, thank you. Well, the War of the Wags has captivated and divided the nation over the past 9 days. One woman who is very much on Team Colleen is fellow Wag Danielle Lloyd. The court heard last week how Rebecca Vardy had called her a bitch in a series of embarrassing texts. And a News Desk exclusive tonight, Danielle joins me now to review the mammoth case that has just come to that end. Danielle, hello, good evening, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Before I ask for your take on how it's all gone, you were brought into this very, very public spat, not in a very nice way. May I ask you how that made you feel?
Yeah, it's really upset me. It's brought back very bad memories. One of the text messages was talking about a miscarriage that I'd had in the past, and it really, really was distraught, like at the time, and obviously for that to be brought up again it's just been heartbreaking for me.
I can imagine. Look, we've seen all the evidence now. We've all heard it in some technicolor. It's up to the judge, but who do you think is going to win this extraordinary trial, Colleen or Rebecca? And crucially, what will the fallout be of that result?
I think in the grand scheme of things, I don't think there are going to be any winners, because they're going to be out of pocket, financially, both of them. And I don't think we will actually ever get to the bottom of who actually leaked those stories. So whatever the outcome, obviously, hopefully both girls can just get on with their lives. But obviously I am rooting for Colleen.
OK, Danielle Lloyd, thank you for talking to me tonight.
Thank you.
The latest from the Ukraine crisis now. And Russia has tried to blame Western sanctions for causing a global food crisis after the United Nations appealed to Moscow to lift a blockade on Ukrainian ports. Moscow's Deputy Foreign Minister, Andrei Rudenko, said severe restrictions to punish Putin's regime for the invasion would need to be reviewed before Ukraine's exports of wheat and the cereals that feed 10% of the world could resume. The UN says millions worldwide are facing famine within months, with the Kremlin accused of also deliberately destroying Ukraine's farming equipment and bombing grain silos. Meanwhile, on day 2 of Ukraine's first trial for war crimes, a Russian tank commander has begged for forgiveness from the widow of a Ukrainian that he's accused of killing in cold blood. 21-year-old Vadim Shishimarin pleaded guilty to shooting a 62-year-old man as he rode his bicycle down a village road. The trials of 2 other Russian soldiers who admitted blitzing civilian areas with a multiple rocket launch system have also begun. President Zelensky has mocked Moscow's claim to have built a laser weapon capable of downing drones and blinding satellites in space. The Ukrainian leader dismissed Russia's claims as Nazi-style propaganda and said it was proof they were losing the war. And we all do it, but this wasn't the best of moments to mince his words. Former US President George W. Bush gave a speech on Ukraine last night, but it was his own invasion of Iraq that he accidentally attacked.
The decision of one man to launch a wholly unjustified and brutal invasion of of Ukraine. Iraq, anyway.
I think we got his drift. Mr. Bush made the gaffe during a speech at an event in Dallas, Texas, where he was talking about the importance of fair elections. Now, here, a musician, Cody Ackland, has been sentenced to life for the brutal murder of 18-year-old Bobby Ann McLeod. Plymouth Crown Court heard how Ackland had obsessively researched Ted Bundy, the infamous 1970s American serial killer who murdered 30 women across the states. The 24-year-old will serve a minimum of 31 years in prison. TalkTV correspondent Holly Hudson has more.
For her family, there is finally justice. Bobby Ann McLeod's murderer is behind bars. In the early evening of the 20th of November last year, 18-year-old Bobby Ann caught a bus to visit her boyfriend. She never made it there. She was brutally attacked at a bus stop in Plymouth by Cody Ackland. In an ordeal that lasted more than 3 hours, the 24-year-old attacked Bobby Ann with a claw hammer, abducted her, suffocated her and dumped her body on Dartmoor. Ackland was known locally as an indie band guitarist, but he lived a double life as a serial killer obsessive. Police say he modelled the murder on Ted Bundy, who knocked his victims unconscious before abducting them. Detectives later found more than 3,000 grisly images of mutilated dead bodies on his phone. CCTV released today shows Ackland handed himself into the police just days later and gave shocked officers a disturbingly candid description of the murder. He even revealed how after bundling her into his car, Bobby Ann had said, "I'm scared," to which he says he replied, "So am I. I've never done this." Telling them how he discovered Bobby Ann still breathing after he hit her 12 times with a claw hammer, he told detectives he had thought, "Wow, hats off to her." For Bobby Ann's loved ones, there is some relief as their daughter's murderer is sentenced. But they say there will never be anything the justice system can impose that will ever come close to what he deserves. Holly Hudson, TalkTV.
Well, it's been the one we've been all waiting for. 3 long years of wait, as it turns out. Tom Cruise has landed as the Top Gun premiere in London tonight, not in the helicopter he had hoped to land in Trafalgar Square, but by foot, alongside other co-stars for the highly anticipated sequel to the film that propelled him to global stardom. Here's a quick taste of it.
Good morning, aviators. This is your captain speaking.
And I'm afraid you're going to have to wait for the cinemas to watch the rest of it. 36 years after the first instalment of Top Gun hit the screens. Blimey, that makes me feel a little bit old. Top Gun Maverick sees Tom Cruise return as the Navy's top pilot. But there is a twist. The Sun on Sunday's assistant showbiz editor Hannah Hope is here with me now. Hannah, hi. The Duke of Justin Cambridge were one of the first to see this movie, we think, worldwide. They've got their own private screening for Tom Cruise, very nice for them. But it appears they've returned the favour today.
Yes, they've given it the royal seal of approval tonight on the red carpet in Leicester Square, along with Charles and Camilla, who are also rumoured to be walking the red carpet later this evening. All the stars have come out in their best suits. We've got Tom Cruise, of course, star and producer of the show, along with Mad Men's John Hamm, and, of course, Jennifer Connelly, who is starring alongside Cruise, and Miles Teller, who won an Oscar recently and is starring as the young hot gun.
The young hot gun?
Yes, indeed.
Can't wait to see what that looks like. Hannah, it's been an extraordinary film in the gestation, a bit like the Bond film. It was made, ready to go in 2019. Then, of course, the pandemic came along. They decided not to release it because there are no cinemas for people to go and see it in. You know all about this film. Crucially, has the wait been worth it? And what is this twist we're going to expect?
So Tom Cruise describes it as a love letter to aviation. He's poured £120 million into making the movie, or £120 million has been spent in making it. They didn't want it to be released on a streaming service. They wanted it to be released as it should be seen in big cinemas across the world, and they want it to be a big blockbuster event. So yes, you're right, they have delayed and delayed, not only because of COVID, they actually delayed in 2019 because they didn't think that the actors were up to scratch at that point. They needed more training. We see a lot of the actors behind the driving seat themselves and actually doing a lot of their own stunts. But yeah, the twist you mentioned. So if you think back to shows like Rocky and then Creed, where we saw the sons of the big characters meet again, I think we're going to have something along those lines.
Ooh.
Yeah, so I think Tom Cruise's character Maverick might meet someone who is the offspring of someone from his past.
Ooh.
But another thing I have to mention, though, is the famous volleyball scene, which saw a lot of the actors in the first movie.
Took off all their shirts, yeah, we remember it.
They've recreated it, and there's an homage to that in this current movie, so that's one to look out for.
OK. Hannah, look, we have you here. We must ask you about some breaking news now that has literally just happened. Rihanna, the singer, and A$AP Rocky have just confirmed that she has had her baby, and it's a boy.
Yes, baby was born actually on Friday the 13th, but Rihanna has been showing off her baby bump in all manner of outfits, proudly waiting to become a mum, and they're very excited to have the baby. There's no news on the name yet, but I'm sure it'll be just as unique as the rest of everything Rihanna does.
OK, Hannah, thanks so much for that. Let's look at some other news now from across the UK. A 30-year-old thug has been jailed for headbutting the captain of Sheffield United during a pitch invasion at Tuesday's promotion semi-final game against Nottingham Forest. Robert Biggs attacked Billy Sharp, who was left needing stitches. He was sent to prison for 24 weeks. Meanwhile, Nottingham police say they also want to speak to Sheffield United striker Ollie McBurney after he was accused of stamping on a supporter during the same incident. The UK is increasing its stockpile of smallpox vaccines in an effort to tackle an outbreak of monkeypox. The jab is 85% effective against the new disease, though health bosses continue to stress that the overall risk remains low. It comes as more countries diagnose cases, and 2 more in the UK were diagnosed yesterday, bringing the total here to 9. In Scotland, the Holyrood government is facing mounting public anger over cuts to rail services. That follows the announcement that a new temporary timetable for ScotRail will take effect from Monday. 700 services will be lost, with the last train on many routes leaving before 8 p.m. And finally, more details on the lineup for the Queen's Platinum Jubilee next month. 20 years after Brian May performed on the Buckingham Palace roof at the Golden Jubilee, and there he is, you can see him just there, his band Queen will open the concert with a special performance. Diana Ross will headline it, and Eurovision Sam Ryder, Sir David Attenborough and Emma Raducanu will all make special appearances. Coming up, we're joined by the woman who blew the whistle on Facebook and unleashed a wave of global criticism last year. But has she seen any improvement from big tech? First, let's get some weather.
Trust us to take you there. Times Travel sponsors TalkTV weather.
Hello, I'm Lucy Martin. A fairly quiet day of weather today, with the thunderstorms from last night out the way. We've seen a good deal of warm sunshine, the exception to that towards the north and west. Here it's been cloudier with some showery rain, fairly breezy as well. And as we go through tonight, we'll see more of the same there. Elsewhere, though, some good clear spells and plenty of dry weather. These are the temperatures at 11 o'clock for most of us, still in the double figures. I think rurally a touch cooler than that. And then into the second half of the night, it will turn cloudier from the south with some rain moving in. And also that rain pushes its way into Northern Ireland. So first thing tomorrow, there'll be outbreaks of rain, some of it locally heavy in the southeast. The temperatures first thing at 9 o'clock here, sitting at around 11 to 14 degrees Celsius. And then that rain in the southeast clears through, and Friday brings a day of sunny spells and showers. The temperatures sitting in the high teens, so noticeably cooler. And then into the weekend, we'll see a north-south split, so always cloudier in the north with some showers. And the best of the brightness to be found further south, some sunny spells and temperatures at a maximum of around 20 degrees Celsius, but generally sitting in the mid to high teens elsewhere. And finally, you may have been woken by thunderstorms last night. There was frequent lightning with hail and gusty winds across many southern and eastern areas of England. The Met Office provisionally reported that over 28,000 lightning strikes were recorded.
Trust us to take you there. Times Travel sponsors TalkTV Weather.
Well, it's the premiere of Top Gun 2 tonight. We've just been telling you about that. And as we speak, the Royals, the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, have just arrived. There they are. There you can see them talking to Tom Cruise. A few people in front of them. The obligatory mobile phones going up in front of them, as you would see always. But there they are, returning that favour because, of course, Tom Cruise gave them the first screening of his new film, Top Gun Maverick. Charles and Camilla also going to be at this premiere, although they've been squeezed out by all those smartphones, it would appear. That premiere going on tonight in central London, and the film is in cinemas from next weekend. And we'll bring you more of that a little later on. Now, it's been crime week for the government, a little ironically at times. But the Home Office's announcement today is that people convicted of cocaine use at football matches will face a 5-year ban from grounds and temporarily lose their passports. But the government's crackdown on the drug is not ending there. The police minister has exclusively told the news desk tonight he also wants to take on middle-class coke users of Royal Ascot and Chelsea's Sloane Square too. TalkTV's political editor Kate McCann is back with me and has that story as well. Kate, busy night for you. You spoke to Kit Mulhouse earlier about these plans. Tell me about them.
Yeah, it's actually really interesting because the government is doing a big review of its drug strategy. So it's having a think about how to tackle drug use across society. There's been a lot of research about this and, to be fair, quite a lot of disagreement about how to deal with it. But what's emerging is a fascinating way that the government is looking at drug use in this country. Some users who use drugs socially, that do a lot of social damage to other people, and then drug users who are addicted that do quite a lot of damage to themselves. And there's a really different track emerging for both of those different type of users. So the first one that you mentioned, middle-class drug users, the government's announced a plan to really curb cocaine use at football matches. Now, there are some significant penalties. You could lose your passport, for example, and that will involve drug sweeps and potentially using intelligence officers. But as you said, Kit Mulhouse, the policing minister, has said he wants to extend this further. It won't just be football matches. It could be Ascot, racing, and other areas in central London where you wouldn't necessarily expect drugs to be used, or at least on display. Have a listen to what he had to say.
You would like to get to a situation where it's worth the police's while to do a drugs operation outside wherever Ascot Racecourse. That's what's going to be in the white paper, giving the police in many ways an incentive not just to do drugs operations in, say, East London, but also to do one outside Sloane Square station.
Now, that's really interesting because what that is the government saying, essentially, is we want to tackle people not just where you see the harm in society, but where it's doing much wider damage, where middle-class people are paying for drugs. They're not necessarily addicted, they just do it for fun. But there are much bigger harms at play here that the government wants to tackle. But then for those people who are addicted, perhaps long-term users, they maybe turn to crime to feed their addiction. Those people should be treated in health centres, and there's a lot more money going into trying to help those people get housing and extra support to try and stop them and in their continued addiction. Experts, though, say the government should go further. Dame Carol Black, who conducted a drugs review for the government, says that actually you should treat addiction like a health problem.
Why don't we treat it like we treat someone with rheumatoid arthritis? If you had rheumatoid arthritis, we know that you can relapse and remit. We know that you need to be followed up. We know that you might need additional services like physiotherapy, occupational health. I don't understand why we haven't done that for addiction.
Now, I think it's fair to say that would be a very brave move for the government to take that step and treat all addiction like a healthcare issue. But it's certainly what the government is moving towards. And for me, that's really interesting because it is a significant change and it does indicate that actually perhaps, although we may not scrap the Misuse of Drugs Act and we might not be talking about decriminalisation above board, behind the scenes, there is certainly a move to think about drugs differently.
You wouldn't be forgiven for thinking there was just a little bit of mixed messaging going on there. Kate, thank you. Now, let's look at some world news. The 18-year-old white supremacist suspected of carrying out the supermarket shooting in Buffalo, New York, has appeared in court charged with murder. Peyton Gendron was heckled in court by family members of his victims. In Australia, a woman convicted of smothering her 4 children to death over a period of 10 years could now be cleared of all wrongdoing. New evidence has come to light that Kathleen Folbig's children could have carried a rare genetic mutation that can cause sudden death. She's been in prison for almost 20 years. And finally, a Donald Trump supporter who took part in the infamous US Capitol Hill riot last year has been convicted after revealing slightly too much on a dating app. Robert Chapman boasted of taking part in the siege to a Bumble date, prompting her to tell him, "We're not a match," before she then reported him to the FBI. Well, on to our nightly interview now. My guest tonight was catapulted into the spotlight last year after leaking thousands of Facebook documents after leaving her job with the tech giant where she ran a monitoring team. In them were damning revelations about a company that appeared to know it was putting profits before the welfare of its own users. Frances Haugen has since become an international campaigner for internet safety, and as such, she's been closely following the passage of the UK government's landmark online safety bill through Parliament. Frances Haugen joins me in the studio now. Frances, hi, very good to see you. It's been, what, a year since you left Facebook, maybe 8 months or so since your revelations first begun. What do you think has changed with big tech in that time?
Around the world, leaders who are working on tech reform, be it in the European Union with the Digital Services Act, be it in the United States, people like Amy Klobuchar, who's the first senator to get a bill involving tech reform out of committee in the Senate in 25 years, they're saying the same thing over and over again, which is when the information in the documents I brought forward came out, when we learned that Facebook had been consistently telling lies to cover for the fact that it was prioritizing profits over people, the era of just trust us ended. That's why these laws are moving forward for the first time after years and years of pushing.
Well, one of those laws is, of course, the UK's online safety bill. I'm particularly keen to talk to you about that. You're watching it very closely, monitoring it. It's a huge bit of legislation that continues to change as it goes through the House of Commons. You've had big criticisms of it previously for not going far enough. Now you've seen some of the changes. What's your view on what it proposes now?
I think there's some places where it's a really strong bill. Even compared to the Digital Services Act, it's probably even better for kids than the Digital Services Act, which is the most impressive piece of online safety legislation to ever pass. At the same time, there's other places that we need to make sure that we push further. So, for example, the bill doesn't commit to transparency. Facebook is different than most other companies that are similarly powerful because unlike, say, an oil company where we can go and test the air, test the water, test the soil around an oil derrick and know if they're telling the truth, with Facebook, it's an opaque thing. We only see our own screens. The current online safety bill doesn't guarantee transparency. It says Ofcom's going to investigate it for 2 years, and it might come to a conclusion at the end it doesn't want to. The Digital Services Act gives us transparency from day one. That's what the online safety bill needs.
And I think you've signed a letter with 40 or so charities this week about just that, about how the tech companies still aren't providing and won't provide under this bill enough data for the government to hold them account.
We're not putting in the letter of the law there's going to be data access.
What data access do you want them to hand over?
We want to have the ability to have secure access for certified researchers, for governmental officials, to be able to ask independent questions. For example, how do the moderation systems work? Who's being taken down? Who's being promoted with these algorithms? Who's being left out? They're wielding huge amounts of power in our society, and we have the right to know what's going on.
OK, something else I want to ask you about that is the business of anonymity. Now, big campaign underway to get the government to ban people existing entirely anonymously online. You don't have to tweet or appear under your own name, but you certainly do have to tell the tech companies who you really are. And they thought that would push down anonymous trolling. Now, the government isn't doing that. What's your take on that?
I think this question of anonymity online is a really complicated one. Remember, not all countries in the world have computer databases of IDs. As long as these tech companies want to operate in any of those countries, anyone who wants an anonymous account is just going to be able to use a VPN and get an account with whatever name. So I'm not sure if it's really going to work to demand having real identities online. But I think that's part of the reason why it's hard to get these things into law.
Now, look, we've just been talking about the far-right gunman who shot 10 people in Buffalo. He used Twitch to stream his rampage over the weekend. He got taken down after 2 minutes, but that was well enough time for people to copy it and spread it around the world. Ditto, arguably, the same thing's going on with Ukraine. We've seen YouTube keep up videos of British soldiers fighting in Ukraine. The Russians posted there completely against, well, all the Geneva Convention rules and also the family's wishes. How would you tackle these problems where you have a global issue, global tech forums doing things that no one government is able to control?
That's part of the reason why we need to start having the democratic process move into the content moderation debate. Right now, all of these decisions are being made in isolation by an unelected private company. In the case of something like Facebook, there's only one person who's accountable. Mark Zuckerberg controls all the votes, and so not even the shareholders are accountable in that case. When we're facing matters of international importance, international crisis, because some of the information that came out via social media on the war in Ukraine had security implications, we need to proactively start having those conversations. Facebook started that conversation with their oversight board and pulled back the ask for clarity. They didn't want anyone else weighing in. We need a democratic process where Ofcom can say, hey, we need to think proactively about these things. Let's not just do it on the fly.
Fine, I just want to get your views on Elon Musk buying Twitter. He says Twitter is already, I bet it is, he says Twitter is already too moderated. It should be this bastion for free speech absolutism. Your views on that and your views on whether he's the right man to be owning it?
Well, I don't think we should ever think a billionaire riding to rescue us is the solution. Like, these are critical institutions in our democracies, and they should be part of the democratic process. But there are some things that he's saying that make me cautiously optimistic. The things that I've been endorsing are that content moderation doesn't work that well. We need to be focusing on product safety changes. That's things like, should you have to click on a link before you reshare it? It reduces misinformation by 10 or 15%, but it comes at the cost of little slices of profit, maybe 0.1%. Taking Twitter private opens up the ability to do many of those product safety changes because they won't have to publicly report the amount of profit every quarter. One of the first things Elon Musk said he wanted to do was make the algorithms transparent. But the second thing he said at the TED conference was, we're going to take down the bots, the robots. These are little computer programs that pretend to be people. They're the #1 danger on social media because they allow our enemies like Russia to blast out whatever message is going to be most useful for them. The reason why Twitter doesn't take them down today, the thing that may end up ruining the deal, because Elon said, wait, you've been saying 5% of your users are bots for years. That can't be right. It can't stay the same every quarter. The reason Twitter doesn't take the bots off their platform is because the number of users they have goes down then. And for tech companies, if you lose even 1% of users, your stock price might crash 10%. So going private would give him the freedom to do that. And he's clearly listening to someone who's wise, because those are two of my favorite interventions.
I suspect he might be listening to you.
He might be. I think that I know other people he's talking to who I have a lot of respect for.
Francois, it's a great pleasure to talk to you again. Thanks so much for coming.
My pleasure. Happy to be here.
Coming up on tonight's panel, as new research suggests 71% of all of us will be dangerously overweight in less than 20 years' time. We'll discuss who's to blame for obesity Britain. You're watching the News Desk live on TalkTV.
With Direct Bullion, you can start your collection of loose or certified gold coins and bullion bars for as little as £50. All the gold they sell is VAT free. Their specialists are on hand to guide and support their customers. And if the time comes, Direct Bullion will even buy your gold back. That's why they're a top recommended precious metals dealer by the Spears 500. For your free Direct Bullion guide to buying gold, call 0800 055 7050.
Whoa, guys, where do you think you're going?
Look, we're cool with John. We swear.
We've got a strict admission policy in here.
And you're not getting in with those trainers on.
Feel the Shield, a fusion allergy nasal spray.
Hasta la vista, baby.
Safe to use for all noses.
take your blessings with your heartaches too. It's so easy and so wonderful to know it's you. So come on, let's make this little shine all day. Let's make this world of everything you say. It's so easy and so wonderful.
Create your perfect diamond engagement ring. Choose your design, choose your diamond, and experience Love Lumber's bespoke same-day diamond engagement rings at Lumber's Jewelers.
Want a better broadband deal? With TalkTalk, you get even faster speeds at the same great value. Right now, we're offering a super fast speed boost at no extra cost. So you can get brilliant speeds of 67 megabits per second for the same price as 38. That's just £23.50 a month for 24 months. So everyone can enjoy more speed and keep hold of more money. Get a super fast speed boost at no extra cost. Deals that make sense. Search TalkTalk Fibre. TalkTalk for everyone.
Welcome back to the News Desk. Now on to our panel, who are here to chew over today's news, as indeed they are every day. It's Thursday, so joining me is the self-proclaimed Moe Marxist and political commentator Grace Blakely, the broadcasting legend and political encyclopedia Adam Bolton. You're no longer a Titan, obviously, we changed that. And the Tory MP for Hitchin and Harbindon, Bim Afolomi. And I'm sorry we can't get more creative about your title, but you're an MP, so we have to be polite. Welcome, folks. Good to see you all. Let's discuss Partygate. As we know, the police investigation has come to an end. It's not all over yet, of course, because we've got Sue Gray coming next week. Bim, come to you first. Is Boris Johnson now in the clear?
Well, obviously, people will be waiting for the Sue Gray report whenever it comes out. I don't think it's coming out today, but I suspect in the coming days.
We're thinking next week, aren't we?
I mean, people will make their own judgments. I think it's been clear that the Prime Minister's apologised for what happened. They shouldn't have happened. He has had one fixed penalty notice, along with the Chancellor, for what happened in the Cabinet room after a meeting. I'm hoping that we can get past this and focus on what we know we need to focus on, which are all the problems afflicting the country and the world at the moment.
Get past this with the Prime Minister still the leader of the Conservative Party?
Well, yes, because I think it's been clear that he has apologised for what happened. The party has had, quite a lot of turbulence over the last few months, and the party's looked at it, thought about it, seen his apologies. He's spoken to so many members of Parliament, and the party has come to the decision that we will continue with him in place because of the challenges that we have to face and what the government still has to do in the rest of the parliamentary term.
It's actually quite astonishing how much this government has been mired in scandal over the last few years. I mean, we've had Partygate, we had the PPE scandal, we had Boris Johnson's wallpaper. We've had so many accusations of whether it's corruption, rule breaking, the Greensill scandal, of course, which involved so many different elements of the Conservative Party. I think it's interesting that this one, though, has really struck a chord with the public, because it does seem to just really bring out that it's become a bit of a cliche now, but, one rule for them and another rule for everyone else. When people were really suffering during the pandemic, unable to go to people's funerals, unable to see their loved ones, these politicians who seem so unaccountable even at the best of times were there basically laughing it up whilst everyone else was suffering. I think that's really struck a chord with most voters who basically look at these people and think they hold us in contempt, and I don't blame them.
Well, it's certainly true if you listen to the Vox Pops. A lot of people are saying, I'm a supporter of Boris Johnson, but about half of them are saying I still think he should go because of what went on, because they felt it themselves in their own lives. But I think there's one aspect in all this that we're missing at the moment, which is the behaviour of the police. I mean, I'm seriously worried about the way the police have handled this affair. I'm with Lord Finkelstein, the Conservative peer. I don't think the police should ever have investigated this in the first place. Lord Finkelstein thinks there was enough that we knew anyway that Boris Johnson should have resigned. But leave that to one side. Fact of the matter is, every single intervention by the police has been beneficial to the Prime Minister. First of all, they intervened when the momentum of the Sue Gray report was becoming unbearable. Then, when they did issue a fixed penalty notice, they roped Rishi Sunak into it, which actually blunted the case against the Prime Minister. And now...
But the police don't exist to prosecute the Prime Minister and get him out of office.
No, but they shouldn't have got involved. And I just, you know, and we all know, because you and I have been in Downing Street many times, whole place is crawling with police. They knew what was going on. And I am seriously worried about the politicisation of the police in all of this. And even... you know, then the pressure that then put on them by sources to investigate Keir Starmer.
I think the police have been
a serious issue.
politicised for many years.
Let's get Ben to come back on that.
I think that you make a very interesting point. I think, however, there is no Prime Minister, indeed no Member of Parliament, who thinks that a Prime Minister being investigated by the police is somehow a positive development. You know, that was a really, really tough thing to happen.
Except it stopped the full unredacted Sue Gray report appearing.
But we're going to see the Sue Gray report,
but,
as you know.
Time blows on. You know, you can play for time, everyone gets familiar with it, and then it doesn't have the same impact. And the police announcement put an absolute break to the momentum of it.
Let Ben finish his point.
Again, that's one point of view. The other point of view which I hold is actually the amount of time that this thing has been hanging around has really suffocated the political atmosphere. It has meant that we have not been able to show the public as much as we'd like what we're trying to do to address the things the public cares about. And by the way, I'm not saying we couldn't have done more or whatever. I'm just making the point that we haven't been able to have the space. We haven't been able to have the space to do that because this has continued a very long time. Now, I'm not criticising the police.
They would be kicked into the long grass, just like all of these other scandals, and people would ultimately forget about it. The problem is that there's no accountability.
Sorry,
that is what people are angry about.
I'm not criticising the police. I am, however, saying that the idea that somehow this has been done in a helpful way to the government, it has not.
Let me just ask you.
I wasn't saying government, I was saying
let me
to
just
the
ask you a straight question, Bim. I don't think there's anyone in Britain that I can work out who think that the Metropolitan Police have covered themselves in total glory in all this for one reason or another. Do you agree with that statement?
I think politicians should always be quite careful about criticising the police. What I would say
they take taxpayers' money like the rest of
you. Because it's important that if politicians start criticising the police, then that may have an impact, and it's very important. What I would say about them is that the judgments that they've made have had significant political effect on the situation. It's possible that was unavoidable, but it has had a significant political effect. As I say, this whole thing has continued for an incredibly long time.
I've got one question for you, Bim.
Just one.
We've heard today 126 charges, which amounts to 83 people, so there are multiple charges.
Yeah.
How come that it was being reported in the Sunday Times by Tim Shipman and others that the Prime Minister has been saying for weeks that he knew he was only going to get one fixed penalty? The only way he could have been saying that privately was if the police had told him that.
Bim, you've got about 20 seconds if you're going to answer that.
You can't. I think that's a very serious allegation. The Prime Minister has been clear that he didn't think that he broke any rules. That's probably why he was saying that, if that's what he was saying.
Last word.
I mean, the police have been politicised for a very long time in this country. You just have to look back to Orgreave to understand that actually they're often an arm of the government, and particularly Conservative governments. And
Grace, that is it. I've got to stop you. I've got to stop you. And do you know what? We haven't even had time to talk about the obesity crisis because you three were all so busy talking about this, which I think we could talk about for another hour. Time is really almost up, so time just left for a very quick roundup of social media. The most searched for things on Google today are in this order. House prices first, after warnings the market could be on the verge of a crash. Second, Nicola Coughlan, the Derry Girls actress, denied she was in the next Doctor Who series. Third, Idrissa Gueye, after the Paris Saint-Germain footballer refused to wear a shirt featuring a rainbow symbol. Most discussed topic on Twitter today, the Metropolitan Police, who we've just been talking about over Partygate. And the last thing I'm going to show you. This has been shared very widely on Twitter today. This photo tweeted by a man who claimed it was a huge sewage leak into the sea in Cornwall. There you can see for yourself that big brown mark on the top of your picture. Well, even the singer turned campaigner Fergal Sharkey was persuaded that was indeed sewage. But further investigation by our experts, I can reassure everybody, say is that in fact it was not sewage but discoloration caused by naturally occurring iron ore. And the case of whodunit is closed. Thank you for that polite laughter. That is it. Thank you to our panel, Grace, Adam and Bim, who'll be back for more pugilism soon. Thank you for watching. We're back at the same time tomorrow. Up next, here's Morgan Uncensored. Good night.
Sky's lowest price returns. Get superfast broadband for just £25 a month, plus our award-winning Sky Q box for just £5 a month.
What a combo.
Incredible speed, super reliable. Plus, enjoy your favourite Freeview channels, apps and recordings all in one place. Superfast broadband for just £25 a month, and a Sky Q box for just £5 a month.
Oh, wow.
Our lowest price won't last long. Go to sky.com.
At Morrison's, we cut the price of midweek meals with over 500 new price cuts. Morrison's, make good things happen.
Hi, I'm Mark, one from Mark's Electrical. We've got thousands of amazing household appliances on our website. Find everything you need for your home. We've over 30,000 products in stock, haven't we, Bob? And the best news is, we'll personally deliver the next day, 7 days a week for free. That's right, for free! Your next appliance at markselectrical.co.uk.
The Solo Stove Bonfire is the hottest new reason to get outside. With its signature 360-degree airflow design, firewood gets just the right amount of oxygen, and since it's easy to light, it gets going fast. There's a reason it has over 10,000 five-star reviews. Bonfire is made for when those good moments become lasting memories. Save £20 off your first order using promo code TV20 at eu.solostove.com.
This summer, Watt stores have all you need to get your garden glowing. Compost, lawn feed, weed killer to wood stain, bedding plants, garden tools, bird seed to tomato feed. Come see for yourself. We're open 7 days a week. Time to brighten up your outdoor space. Watt stores.
Variety, value and choice.
If you or someone you know owned or leased a diesel vehicle between 2007 and 2020, you could be entitled to significant compensation. And at My Diesel Claim, we're experts in handling these claims. Millions of drivers have been misled by numerous manufacturers about emissions, and hundreds of thousands have already filed their claims. Simply visit our site now and check your vehicle instantly. It's completely free to sign up, and you can start your claim in seconds. Visit mydieselclaim.com and join thousands of others starting their claims today.
On TV, on radio, and on your smartphone. This TV.